Awesome. Well, I see everyone's starting to shuffle in virtually below. We're excited to kick off this panel and discussion today. If you've been to some of our other webinars, welcome back. If you're new, we do these probably every couple months. We try to do a webinar or some sort of educational session around either social media, influencer marketing, those different categories. I always love to see where everyone's tuning in from, so feel free to drop your location in the comments, and if it's your first time or if you're coming back again as well. Okay, got it. Sam, yes, LA. Hi, Kevin and Jerry. So yeah, while we're waiting for everyone to come through, we got Pennsylvania, Colorado. Um, it's always fun to see where everyone's tuning in from. Las Vegas, Toronto. Amazing. Yeah, well, welcome. And I'm so excited to be here with Kendall Fargo as well, as we dig into some TikTok shop talk, because there's so much changing in the world of TikTok shop right now. With that, while we wait for everyone to shuffle in, I'll have Sam, our producer of the webinar, pop up a little poll so we can figure out where everyone lands in terms of where they're at with TikTok shop right now. So you should see a poll pop up on your screen. We're curious to know, are you all new to TikTok Shop? Are you established? So you've been doing it, you're generating sales and you're happy with it. You're established but looking to scale, or you're just getting ready to create your shop, which I feel like there's a lot of people I met in that bucket as well. So feel free to put your answers in there so we can kind of see how it shakes out. Looks like new to TikTok shop is most, with second being getting ready to start, and established and looking to scale as our third, which probably breaks down for what I was expecting. What do you think, Kendall?
Yeah, this is probably a pretty good ratio of a lot of brands out there.
Yeah. Yeah, probably a lot of what you're saying too. So yeah, we're going to cover beginner questions. We actually sent out questions to a lot of you. You probably saw where you submitted them, and pulled some questions from even our own clients as well, some frequently asked questions. So we're going to cover all the way beginner to even some more advanced things. And then we're also going to be able to leave some time for questions so you can ask those as well. So, and one other poll to kick things off: what is the scariest part of managing TikTok shop, in honor of today being Halloween? So happy Halloween, everybody.
Mm.
I am curious, what are like your biggest pain points happening? So you should see that poll pop up in a second. Too. So we have influencer ghosting, slow to no affiliate posts, getting banned, lack of support from the TikTok in general, and then complicated setup as the final one.
I can almost guess which one's going to win that one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what do you think, Kendall?
I mean, complicated setup.
Yeah, it looks like that one's winning.
I
was gonna say, I
be the
think,
runaway winner on that one.
yeah, they just changed the rules again, right? Just the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's changing all the time. And it's a fast moving platform, and they want to keep enhancing it. But it definitely causes some pain in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, we're excited to jump into it. So with that, I'm going to share a little deck that I have just to introduce everything and introduce us to you all, for all the newbies out there as well. And then we'll jump into our panel discussion. Some housekeeping: this will be recorded and sent to you after. So if you're taking notes or anything like that and you're worried you missed something, this will be recorded and sent to you. So don't worry about that. It'll be sent out in the next day or so. Feel free to send it to any team members too if they weren't able to join. And yeah, in terms of getting started, so we'll leave some questions, time for questions at the end too. So feel free to drop them in the chat, and then we'll compile some of the questions and go through those at the end as well. But just to give a little bit of background on myself, so my name is Kristen Wiley, founder and CEO of Statusphere. Like I mentioned, we do these webinars / educational content every couple months. And I'm so excited to have Kendall Fargo here with us today. We actually met via one of our mutual clients that use both of our services. And we realized that there was so many frequently asked questions happening on both sides that we were like, why don't we come together and answer them and create some really great content and resources for everyone who's struggling out there with TikTok shop. So to give a little bit about background on myself, like I said, I'm founder and CEO of Statusphere. We help scale micro influencer marketing in a fraction of the time. We can get thousands of people posting about products on especially Instagram and TikTok, which is why we work with a lot of brands who are dabbling with TikTok Shop. And the big problems that we solve for is that it just takes thousands of hours to get people posting. It takes so much time. My background is I actually started first as a creator myself. Then I went to the agency side managing these campaigns, and I just couldn't figure out how to scale influencer marketing, especially with the micros. And that's why we created Statusphere. So we take the thousands of hours of work, we turn it into 1 hour, and you get the guaranteed content and posts. And one of the reasons too for this webinar today is that we just launched actually our TikTok Shop affiliate post feature so that we can get those guaranteed posts for brands. So we've been starting to do this with different brands, and that's also how we ran into Kendall. And we're really excited to launch this and share that all with you today. So if it is something that you're interested in, feel free to book a demo or a discovery call, and we can see how we can help you with that. And then a little bit about Kendall. So he has over 20 years of marketplace experience, working at a ton of really great companies and just tons of experience in marketing in general, but really specializing in accelerating growth for top brands that use Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. He's also a patented innovator behind the Internet Enhanced Local Shopping System and Method, which was licensed by Google and acquired by Intuit. So we're really honored and excited to have you, Kendall, today on the panel with us, especially with your expertise in TikTok too. So,
Hey,
and then a
Kristen.
little, yeah, absolutely. And then a little bit about Grow Mojo. I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, so Grow Mojo is a digital marketing agency, and we started Grow Mojo because we had been on the other side of the table, and really wanted an agency that really understood the challenges brands faced in scaling their growth. We started on Facebook, Meta, and Google initially, like everyone else, but we're in the San Francisco Bay Area, and some people that we knew at Facebook left Facebook and went over to TikTok in 2019. And in talking to them, they asked us to be an original TikTok agency. So we started working with clients on TikTok in January of 2020. And at the time, TikTok was about 15 million users in the US, primarily teenagers. But the pandemic happened. We all got stuck together indoors, and all these parents started looking over the shoulders of their kids saying, hey, what is this TikTok? I got to try it out myself. And that year, TikTok went from like 15 million to 100 million users in 2020. The platform's really grown, and the opportunities for brands to market on TikTok have just become so valuable for brands to adapt. And now TikTok Shop is the whole next big generation of that.
Yeah, it's crazy how it's changing constantly. I actually just got off a call with a client, and he was just got on TikTok Shop, and he's like, they're definitely building the plane while they're flying it. And I thought that was a good analogy there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grow Mojo, definitely we've seen amazing results with some of the clients that we work with, and especially navigating the chaos that is TikTok Shop. So they are a TikTok Shop partner. Obviously you have the TikTok Shop affiliates, advertising, SEO, which we've talked. I know we have our awesome webinar on TikTok SEO. If you're interested in doing a deep dive into that, we have a whole webinar on TikTok SEO as well. Search ads, which I'm very excited about. And then the TikTok ad policy, which I'm sure is also ever changing. And if you need help with that, Grow Mojo can keep you up to date on what's happening there. So be sure to reach out to Grow Mojo if you're interested in learning more and wanting to book a consultation to find out how they can help you, especially getting set up. I feel like you've helped a lot of clients I've seen get set up and navigate that. But yeah, so with that, I'll kick things off to, we also have, I forgot this one. We have also our State of Micro Influencer Marketing report. I'll show this at the end too. At Statusphere, we just launched this. We analyzed over 30,000 posts, and we pulled together some benchmark data. So we'll send this out as well, but it's a really great way to start, especially seeing some TikTok benchmarks as well. But with that, let me dive into the questions. If you see me look off the side of my screen, it's because that's where my questions are. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see you also. But jumping in, let's just start high level. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see brands facing on TikTok Shop right now?
Yeah, so there's clearly the challenge with initial setup. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But I think the most important thing for brands, to understand, which is I think a challenge initially, is, how TikTok Shop is different, right, from Amazon. They're familiar with Amazon as a marketplace, but Amazon is really reselling your products and they're keeping all the customer information. And, that clearly has worked really well. But the difference from a technical standpoint is that, TikTok Shop is basically really a marketplace that's a transaction provider. But the transaction is then being sent to your e-commerce system, right? So if you're using, for example, like Shopify or WooCommerce or BigCommerce, the transaction happens on TikTok Shop. And, basically once it happens, the order is then sent to your e-commerce and then you fulfill that. And so there's all these additional kind of integrations that are necessary that you didn't have to experience, with Amazon, that it's just part of getting set up on TikTok Shop. And so, that requires definitely some knowledge and expertise because it keeps evolving and it's moving pretty quickly. And it's really hard for brands to know like what exactly is needed and how to fix the little quirks. So that's an area where we spend a lot of time with our brands initially, just kind of getting them up and running. And so that's one, challenge. And the other challenge is really understanding that there's a difference on TikTok and Amazon. And Amazon, it's been around for 20 years. Like the demand is already there. Like people are coming to Amazon to shop, right? TikTok Shop is only a year and a half old. And, people aren't coming to TikTok Shop and doing a lot of active shopping. You have to generate the demand yourself. And you have to have either organic creative or, TikTok ads that are then driving awareness of your product and pointing to your products on TikTok Shop. Great benefits to that in that it's literally a one-click purchase, right?
Yep.
But you have to generate that demand. Like people right now aren't coming to TikTok Shop and spending hours just browsing around like they do on Amazon, right? And so, brands just need to understand that there's the whole side of kind of generating that demand that you need to invest in so you can have, the real success on TikTok Shop. And then there's a whole third area of affiliates that we can talk about a little bit more, which is again, kind of a third stage, right? But it's also a challenge that can be really hard for brands because it's a different process than they're used to go out and get these creators to basically represent them in a sense.
Yeah, I think it was an aha moment for me when we were talking earlier about when you explained how so many brands compare TikTok Shop to Amazon because on face value at first you're like, oh, it's another place I can sell my products, but there is a huge difference in terms of that demand generation, and I think making sure you're budgeting for that too. It's not like you can just put yourself on TikTok Shop and get sales immediately. Although Amazon also requires marketing and pieces like that, some cases, if you do find a niche, you can just get sales immediately because people are going there more bottom of the funnel. Where on TikTok, people are going there more to be entertained, or we talk about that social SEO piece, they're going to search and answer their questions. So it's more like a search engine in that regard. So I thought that was like an interesting piece. And then just zooming out for like some of our newbies getting set up, you were telling me how each state even has different requirements for getting set up because oh my gosh, I just feel like it's a chaos with like, if you're like, I today want to get set up on TikTok Shop, you don't even know where to begin. Like, what does the list look like? Can you talk a little bit about some of those challenges specifically with getting set up and any advice you have and the changes that TikTok keeps making?
Yeah. So, with getting set up on TikTok Shop, you first have to get your business approved, right? TikTok is very concerned with fake businesses establishing, accounts on TikTok Shop and then sending, basically creating like phony products and then, orders coming in, them getting money and nothing ever gets shipped, right? So they really want to verify these businesses are located in the United States. It's required that right now for sell in the United States, you have to be located in the United States. It can be an international company, but they still have to have an entity in the United States. And so TikTok needs to verify that. And so that process is different based on which state you're in, which can be complicated as far as like what documentation you need to show. And then, once you do that, then there's the whole set of steps of setting up, basically getting your product feed into TikTok Shop, which, depending on what e-commerce platform you're using, or maybe it's some of our clients, it's kind of a homegrown built, e-commerce system, and that's even more complicated. And so, we're working with, all types of clients, just work through the issues. And again, every brand's issues are very unique. We never talk to a brand and we go, oh, they're just like this one. There's always some uniqueness in it. But then again, we are fortunate because we are a TikTok Shop partner. We meet with TikTok literally every week. Like we have a set meeting with them every week. And then we have other ways to just reach out to them and say, hey, we're running this problem with this client. How do we resolve it? And we have people that would jump to attention. Their own support is not good, right? And that's where brands are really struggling, because the support at TikTok, they just haven't had a chance to really grow it out. And the number of brands coming on to TikTok Shop are overwhelming it. And so we're fortunate that we have people we can go to who are really dedicated to help our brand succeed on TikTok Shop.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess you heard it here first. That's our top question. People are like, how do I get a hold of TikTok? I'm like, you kind of have to know somebody. It's kind of crazy. Unfortunately, that's just the realistic situation that's happening over there. But yeah, so you were mentioning different industries too, because you work across many different. I get this question a lot, and it was one of the questions submitted. Do you see certain products, price points, and industries that like work best with TikTok Shop?
Well, it's from what we see in the data, products that are $20 or more perform the best. Up to, like $100 or, $150, right? Seems to be at least the current range right now. We are seeing some products succeed under $20, right? But I would say, kind of the sweet spot is like 20 to 100, I think right now. Probably the sweetest spot of that is like 20 to 60 or 70, right? But again, if your products are outside of that, it's okay, because we are seeing great examples of products over $100 or products literally like $9 do really well, right? So you shouldn't be scared off by that. What's also important is like just making sure that you're that you're feeding in the products you have enough inventory of, right? The biggest way you can get literally banned on TikTok is by going out of stock, right? They hate that. It's the number one reason that brands come to us and say, hey, we've been banned, what do we do? And I said, did you run out of stock? And they go, yeah, we did.
Wow, that's so hard, because it's like seems like something that's not necessarily in the control of the brand. Think of supply chain, so many different things. So what happens when they get banned? They how do you
it's a process for sure, right? And so it's really important that you don't have to list every product on TikTok Shop, right? You can pull your entire inventory, your entire feed, out of Shopify, for example, right? But you don't have to list every product. So you should really only list the products that you have enough inventory where you're not going to go out of stock, right?
Have you seen, but I can't even imagine if I mean, it's a great thing if something goes viral, but if it does go viral also, it'd be really hard to stay in stock. So do they just ding you as soon as you go out of stock? You
really, I mean, this is something we work with our clients. You really want to pull down the product before that happens.
That's okay,
right.
So
they just don't want you to go on back order, right? Because they just want the experience to be, you have to fulfill quickly. They really want you shipping within 48 hours, 2 working days, right? And so the what they don't want to have happen is a bunch of orders go on back order, and people aren't getting their product, right? And then as far as categories are concerned, we're seeing success across like all categories. Like clearly, like beauty has been very successful. Anything like health related. But we're seeing lots of like clothing products, pet products, sports products. They're all, there's all categories are already companies that are success stories. So regardless of what category you're in, I think it's clearly there's a couple of areas you can't sell on TikTok, but besides the
Yeah.
totally restricted categories, there are success stories in every category.
Yeah. Do you think that going back to even the price point, because that was a little surprising that like there's like this $20 threshold seems to be where there's a bump when you get above it. Do you think that has to do with the TikTok affiliate program? Or like, what do you think is driving that? Meaning it's more people are incentivized to post about it because they get a higher commission. Like, why do you think the $20 price point is seeing a good traction?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a couple factors. Number one is TikTok offers free shipping for orders over $30,
Okay.
right? And so it's like it's actually easier if you are selling a $20 product and then someone else puts something else in their cart and they get free shipping, right? So they're getting over that $30 threshold. Or if your product is already $30, they get free shipping. And people love free shipping, right?
Yeah.
So that from just a kind of a marketplace standpoint, right? Getting up past that free shipping threshold, I think helps all products, right? On the affiliate side, you're right. So the way the affiliate program works on TikTok is that you basically, reach out to creators on TikTok and ask them to basically merchandise, basically market your product. People are going to create videos highlighting why someone would want to buy your product, and you offer them a commission. And the average commission that we're seeing work is 15 to 20% commission. And so really if your product is like $20 and your commission is say 15%, okay, they're making $3 in every sale, right? Which I think feels like enough money where they're going to say, okay, I think I can make a really good video and drive a bunch of sales of this product and I make $3 for every order. Okay, that works for me as a creator.
But yeah, so jumping in onto the affiliate question. So we were talking a little bit as you're saying they're more incentivized with that 15 to 20% you were saying, or 25%, that range. We've been seeing the same thing with the brands that we work with as that being like a sweet spot. But we do get a lot of questions. And this was actually a question submitted where it was, will influencers slash creators do content in exchange for product alone? And I will say that this is a hot topic, I think, since beginning of time with creators, even before TikTok Shop. Will they do it? It's like there's no flat answer. Some will, some won't. I've seen creators who have like hundreds of thousands, even millions of followers do stuff for product alone because they love it. And I've seen creators who have only a very low engagement charge thousands of dollars to do a post. So I will say it's very variable. But I've noticed that with TikTok Shop, they have this new feature. They have like a sampling feature where you can send out the product and try to get like creators can request it, or you can also send them out. And I've heard a few of our brands tell us they've been using that tool but having trouble with posting. Have you seen any results from that, or like what are your thoughts on that process and getting creators posting about the product in general? How have you seen brands do that?
Yeah, so maybe if I could step back a little bit and just talk about like how the affiliate program really works, right? The affiliate program is basically all these creators on TikTok that are already creating videos, and you want them to go and talk about your product, right? Because they already have a great audience, right? And so, you basically reach out to them and you say, hey, I got this great product, would you basically create a video to drive, sales, and I'll pay you a commission, right? To do a really good video, you're going to want to basically give them the product, right? And so they can, talk about it, show it, right? And so initially, that's not that hard when you're dealing with, a small number of affiliates, right? But the important thing with that small number is getting good affiliates, which is hard because those affiliates are getting, kind of inundated with opportunities, right? And so what you have to do, this is a mistake that every brand makes initially. They just rush out and they want to just reach out to affiliates. But the affiliates are going to look at how well your product is doing on TikTok Shop before they say yes. And if they see you don't have any sales on TikTok Shop yet, right, or very few and no reviews, they're going to just pass on the opportunity. And so what brands do, that what we do with all our brands is we say, look, we're going to have to advertise first, right? We're going to create videos for you. We have our own team of video editors, video copywriters. And so we create TikTok ads and we drive sales on TikTok Shop by, TikTok ads that are pointing to your product on TikTok Shop. And those orders start happening. And, TikTok Shop shows you how many times a product has been ordered. And so we generate all this like social proof that your product is a good seller because, all these orders are, being captured. People are coming back and giving 5-star reviews. And so then when we reach out to affiliates, we say, hey, this product is already selling well on TikTok Shop. Would you like to basically be an affiliate? Then they're going to say, oh, yeah, okay, I can see it is selling well. Yes, I would, right? At the same time, you want to basically give them the product, right? You give them a free sample. And so you start off with a small number of affiliates and get them to be successful. And then what you want to do is you want to reach out to the masses, right? And this is where the system of, TikTok Shop is not great, right? And this is where Statosphere is really good in that you already have like a very big network, of creators that are going to create really good videos, and you can help with the distribution of the free samples, which I think is really valuable because, I mean, to be honest, when we start reaching out to affiliates, it's a pretty low take rate initially, right? And, it can take some time, generating enough momentum where everyone can see the success of the early affiliates and they want to be on board, where, using Statosphere, it kind of accelerates that process. And I think that's a great feature of what you guys offer.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a ton of sense. And it also reminds me of you use the term affiliates, and I feel like affiliates and creators, they're separate and now they're the same, right? So they used to be very separate, like before TikTok Shop, especially if we go way back. An affiliate is somebody who gets a kickback in exchange for selling a product. And the biggest affiliates used to be websites, right, that link to stuff. And I try to explain this all the time to brands where I'm like, when you're starting out, if your product isn't proven, like we see this all the time with creators. They want to blast out a brand new product no one's ever heard of, brand new brand to a bunch of creators. I'm like, the first set of creators are taking a risk on you. The first set, or you have to either compensate them to kind of get over that hump. You can't normally do it just for products because you're an unknown brand. You have to get over that hump. Then we can start seeing the snowball effect happening. If you have a truly great product, that's when you really see the snowball happening because it feeds itself. And then we run the second campaign after we do the first campaign, and those creators, you have a higher claim rate, higher opt-in rate for the second one because they see all that first round of content and they see these other creator content, and it just makes them want to work with you more. So I think that it's so interesting that now, to looking at both affiliate and influencer, there are some TikTokers that are like very much make their money just off of affiliate and more probably would call themselves an affiliate versus a creator. And then now you have all these creators that can now be affiliates. So it's just interesting how it's changing constantly. But I wanted to also call out, just from vocab perspective, like an affiliate is a creator, but they're also sometimes affiliates don't consider them as one or the other anymore.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I think you said something really important, is that affiliate programs have been around for as long as the internet, right? And I actually used to tell brands, you never want to do an affiliate program because, these, websites are going to just take your link and they're going to post it on all the coupon sites and you're just going to lose control of it. But this affiliate program on TikTok is the exception. The reason being is that it is all on TikTok and these affiliates can't game the system, right? They create a video, they link directly to your product on TikTok Shop. And so there's perfect attribution of whether that video drove the sale or not, right? And they can't take a link and post it anywhere else. They can only create videos, and those videos are what's going to drive the purchases for you. So you're truly only paying for performance in that model, right? Now, that model only works when you gain credibility. And, a lot of times you have to gain that credibility by, again, driving demand, like I was describing earlier, by using like Statosphere to, drive a lot more market awareness, more kind of like, social, proof of, lots of people, creating videos for you that way. Until you get to the point where, enough affiliates are making money off of you, right? Where word's getting out and then you become the next big hit.
Yeah. And I'm interested, do you ever see, we've seen this with a few of our brands too, when they're running TikTok shop campaigns, their sales on their website, or if they are on Amazon or something else, will also correlate with some of their spend. Because my assumption when this happens is that there still is a trust factor with TikTok. I know me personally, like I might see an ad for something on TikTok shop. I will go search it on Amazon or go to the site. Do you see that correlation happening too?
Oh, all the time. I mean, look, people, will be watching, videos on TikTok, and it's not a good time for them to purchase. Maybe they only have a couple of minutes, and they're just doing a little bit of kind of downtime. They see a really good video and they think about that product, and then they, the next day they want to purchase. Maybe they will just go straight to your website, for
Yep.
that, right? And so you will get like additional lift, right? Just comes from lots of people basically marketing for you.
hmm Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up because I feel like so often some marketers, or not always the marketers, but maybe their boss gets caught up in this like attribution piece where they're like, is TikTok, but our TikTok shop isn't having sales. But I'm like, but as your website, like you have to look up both kind of everything holistically as you're spending, because the we all know the buyer's journey is not linear anymore. It jumps all over the place.
That's
So it
right.
really should be like holistic. And I think what's so cool about TikTok shop is you can get the sales there, but it can also impact your brand awareness, your Google search, all those different things can be affected as well. So,
Yeah. I mean, we're talking a lot about TikTok, but we also market for, Meta, Google, and people jump from like Instagram to TikTok back and forth. And when we use tools to like analyze kind of the purchase process, people are, seeing your ad across multiple platforms, right?
mhm,
And, that may be ultimately what got them to, take that action off that affiliate video, and purchase from you from TikTok shop, right? So it
mhm.
is important to have a holistic approach to marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So something that I don't feel like a lot of people I hear talk about a lot too, that you touched on earlier, that I wanted to come back to, was also the reviews. Because you think of reviews, I mean, people think about it on Amazon and a lot of different other places, but the reviews are also important on TikTok, and it makes total sense. But I do feel like people kind of overlook that as well. What do you have any tips for that? I guess when you're starting that process, like is that where do you start with just trying to get some reviews up and going, or what do you recommend to brands?
Yeah, I mean, look, the most important thing is to just do a really good job for your customers, right?
Mhm,
Make sure it ships out quickly, follow up with any, issues, so you are, basically getting those kind of 5-star ratings, because,
mhm,
TikTok Shop is sending surveys out, to all customers, and those customers can choose to basically rate you. And if you do a really good job, that's what's going to get you those 5-star and additional reviews if people leave comments, right?
mhm.
And so, that ultimately, like, that's the way to basically be most successful is, just making sure you're doing a really good job shipping on time and your product is a great product, right?
Mhm.
Um, there are other things you can do. I know that you guys provide that service, which is, I think, is a great service too. Um, you know, but
Yep.
ultimately, it's still kind of its early stages. There's not as many techniques as you can leverage on like Amazon to, I would say, boost your reviews, right?
Mhm.
But ultimately, if you're doing a good job just fulfilling,
Feeling.
you'll do just fine.
Yeah, it's like fortunately or unfortunately, I do think the barrier, like just getting the product there and answering their questions is a great way to do it. But I think it's a great reminder because I think brands forget that TikTok sends out that survey afterward to, get people to leave those reviews. So just a reminder of like making sure you monitor and keep those up, because I feel like if you keep pushing a product whose reviews are going down, you're going to end up wasting money promoting that product. So diving into more maybe slightly more advanced, I've heard brands talk about this a lot. Actually, a lot of the brands, we have lots of debates internally over targeted versus open collabs and
Mhm.
allowing those. What are your thoughts on those, and what conversations are you hearing brands have about them?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So, initially you're doing targeted collabs because you're sort of kind of hand selecting those early affiliates, that are going to really promote your product. But after you get some traction, you can open it up, right? And allow creators to come to you
Hmm
and say, "Hey, I would be great at, marketing your product," right? Um, And so, ultimately, it's a lot faster for you to open it up and let them come to you than you to be reaching out to
That's it.
everyone.
Yeah.
But initially, you want it to be targeted.
Yeah, yeah, you want it to be targeted, but I've found so, and I guess zooming back for just some of the beginners out there too, when if an affiliate signs up, so if I was a TikTok creator, I can go and I can start linking to products that don't even approve me. If they are open, I could go to the store and buy a lipstick, and if they have an open policy, if I meet TikTok's requirements to be an affiliate, I can just tag that without that brand even approving me to tag it. That's like open collabs versus targeted. The brand has to approve which collabs that they are doing. And kind of like what Kendall you just said, it's some of the brands that have a little more uh, typically it's bigger brands that are a little scared of who's posting about them or afraid to go open sometimes with theirs. But I do think especially big brands can be missing out once they get to that point of not going open. So it's been a debate I noticed with some bigger brands that maybe want to have like more control are a little anxious to go on the open route. But yeah, I feel like TikTok was built for that, for brands once you get to that point, like to just keep it open and let people tag.
Yeah, and really, the only people that are going to want to, do collabs are just happy customers. They want to basically kind of share their excitement about your product, right? And if they get paid a commission as a part of that, they're even happier, right?
Mhm.
They're going to promote it even more.
Mhm. Yes, that makes total sense, and I those are the happy customers you want. You want that authenticity. So I lean toward the open side when I'm recommending to customers. But yeah, on that note too, there's some questions that come up around TikTok Shop posts. So when a creator actually tags TikTok Shop, um, the type of post and like the parameters around it are a little bit different. So at Statusphere, we can get a bunch of creators posting TikTok shops. We have found that, or something I wanted to bring up on this call, is that you should not be taking that content, even if you have the rights to it, and reposting it and tagging TikTok Shop, because TikTok will ban you for that reason, even if you have the rights to do it, because you're taking away that commission potential of that creator. And I think that's just something for brands that use creators often. They like to use creators in a way where they get a bunch of posting, they also repost it to their feed, they do this. With TikTok Shop, if you're having them tag TikTok Shop, you need to always be pointing back to that creator's post. You should not be taking their content and then layering new ads on top of it, or TikTok will ban you. So we've seen that on our side as like a kind of surprising, like not surprising, but like one that a brand didn't see that coming. I'm curious, like what other bans have surprised you that happened that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, well, that one's duplicate content,
Yeah.
right? And and just to kind of explain what that is that TikTok doesn't want anyone to go and take someone else's content and reuse it as their own,
Hmm.
right? And so that's the real sensitivity. A lot of times it can be confusing because you're paying this
Yes.
individual to basically make content for you, but you can't take the same video and post it as your own, even if you pay for
Yep.
it, right? If you have the rights to it and they've posted it on their own, you can take it and edit it and maybe make changes to it, right? And then it's unique, right? But
Mhm.
if you take the same piece of content and you post it again, their algorithm is going to catch that, and then it's called duplicate content, and you will get in a lot of trouble for it and
Mhm.
potentially banned, right? So that's one kind of like common issue.
Mhm.
As I mentioned before, other issues with TikTok Shop, you have to be really careful about shipping on time. Like they want you to ship in 2 working days. That kind of give you a third day is kind of an extra day. But if you go longer than that, and you basically will get violation points against you. And if you get enough violation points, then you can get banned for that. You got to be really careful about like not listing products that are not approved by TikTok, and that actually there's a whole policy part of TikTok that is very confusing, because some products that you would think are fine because they're selling on Amazon, they're selling on all these other places, they're not allowed on TikTok yet.
Mhm.
And so if you have like a range of products, you may unintentionally list a product that, is not approved. And then you basically can get in a lot of trouble, potentially restricted or banned because of that. So you have to be really careful, staying up to date with the policies of TikTok, which is hard because the policies are always changing.
Yeah.
So
It's a moving
that's
target.
it is very much a moving target, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was with all this talk of getting banned, since this doesn't surprise me. One of our top questions submitted was, if you are banned, how do you get reinstated? Do you see hope for brands that have gotten banned? Like, how often do you see them being able to get reinstated? Because that was a top question submitted.
Yeah, and we have companies who've come to us who have been banned or fully restricted, right? And we just, take their situation and help them kind of fix whatever it was that was causing the problem, and then come back to TikTok and say, hey, look, here's what happened. Here's how they fixed it. You take a look and see if everything looks good, and they go, okay, sure, good, they're okay now, right? Um, and so, a lot of times you just have to work with, basically a TikTok Shop partner like us to basically help you kind of fix whatever was the issue, and then bring it in front of the right team within TikTok to eventually say, okay, everything looks good now, you're good to go, right?
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. And I understand it's probably a case by case basis, since each person banned or each business banned is for a totally different reason. I think the frustrating part I've seen firsthand with friends and clients is that they go in and they just don't get much information. They just say you're banned, and TikTok does not
Yeah.
tell you why, and it's just infuriating. So I hope they get better at that. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like, that happens to some of our clients, and again, a lot of times it's an algorithm that just
yep,
flags it, incorrectly, right? And so then we just appeal, and through the appeal
yeah,
process, we get it reinstated,
they
right?
did, yep,
But like, that's really hard to do unless you have some inside relationships.
yep, yep.
And
And you kind
again,
of get put in the
I
back
don't.
of the
I'm
list.
not saying this to knock TikTok. It's just that their marketplace is growing faster than their team is,
Yeah,
right? And so it just is becoming overwhelming for them, and that's why they're taking TikTok Shop partners like us and training us and like working with us every week. And we literally have a meeting with them every Friday. They go, here's what changed since last Friday.
yeah, it's crazy.
Right?
I feel like
And
they
that's
don't even know what's
and they bring that up, and that's how the
yeah,
meeting starts. Here's what's changed since last Friday, which is really helpful for us, because we go, oh, okay, now when we see that issue, we're ahead of it,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. That's really great inside track and intel that I think would save brands a lot of headaches if they also knew. So they should just publish that on a blog somewhere. So you should tell them that next time. But with that said, and them changing all the time, another question that we've gotten recently was about spotlights in those like categories. So there's like that TikTok Shop Discover page. They have like Super Brand Day, weekly
Mhm.
picks, new arrivals. How do brands get in these like highlighted categories? Is it a paid placement? I know TikTok Shop also is changing a lot of their placements. They just came out saying they're doing more search placements, which is really exciting a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That we're seeing brands really excited about getting placements for certain key terms. But for those other places, are those paid, or do you know any info on that?
So it depends. Like right now, just talk about, like, because there's lots of opportunities on TikTok Shop and off at TikTok Shop.
Yep.
I'll just really focus on TikTok Shop for now. Like, for example, there's some big opportunities that are usually like seasonal events. Like, they just did a really good one for back to school, and you could, as a brand on TikTok, apply to be a part of it, right? And you get a lot of promotion. And in 4 days of this back to school promotion, 2.1 million orders went through TikTok Shop,
Wow.
right? Just giving you the scale, right?
Wow.
They're doing some more upcoming for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. They're actually going to do two sets of them,
Mhm.
and in those, TikToks actually fund half of the discount, right, for brands,
They really
right?
do.
And so basically you apply, and obviously, if you have some traction on TikTok, like, that helps, right?
Mhm.
It's actually somewhat a requirement. You have to have some traction. And then, we try and pitch it on your behalf and say, hey, in this category, this would be a great product to include, right? Because they're not going to include everybody.
Yeah.
And so, right now it's not, you don't have to pay for that. They're going to end up paying for you in a sense, right? Because they're going to cover part of that promotion. They're also now, as you mentioned, search terms, within TikTok Shop, that you can map your products to. You have to pay for those on Amazon. They're currently free on TikTok, but you have to know how to do it. And, it's kind of a little complicated. But, there's another opportunity just to be, again, getting incremental sales because you become one of those highlighted products when someone searches.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I've heard about the applications. Any other tips other than having traction? Is there anything that they look for? There are certain categories. Like, do you have any other inside intel on how they pick those, since it seems like such a great thing to get picked for?
Honestly, it kind of varies, whether, what promotion it is or, kind of what they're looking for to highlight. I think, the keeping your store in good standing clearly is a really important criteria, right?
Yep.
Making sure that if you do get violation points, you address them right away, right? A lot of brands don't even realize they're getting violation points sometimes, right?
Yeah.
That can be, one of their downfalls, right? And so, just making sure your products, are listed well. A lot of times we have to kind of like help with the headings and descriptions, because what comes out of like Shopify or WooCommerce or BigCommerce doesn't align, in TikTok Shop. And so just, making sure, you're taking the time to, have your products really like match the marketplace, right? That's how you get picked, along with obviously having traction. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So or actually I'm going to ask one more question, then we'll open up to questions in the chat so that we have some time. But this was also definitely a hot topic, is categories that have more restrictions, if there's any tips. So when we think of one of I think the most requested we have questions about is like supplements, for example, and some of these products with claims. Do you have any tips for how to navigate TikTok Shop with those types of products? And have you seen success?
Well, there are categories that are invite only right now on TikTok Shop, right? So you can't list your products unless you get invited in, and you have to know who to go to get invited. So that's another benefit. We constantly are trying to figure out like who the decision makers are, for those invite only categories, so we can go to them and say, hey, invite our products, right? So that's one way. The others, I mean, it's just hard. I mean, to be honest, if it's a restricted category, you need to make sure you're following all the guidelines. If you have some products, that, are more likely to get approved, and some that are less likely to get approved, just start with the ones that are going to get easily approved. Don't try and throw them all through at the same time. Because they'll just blanket reject you, right? You might as well, kind of hold off the ones that are likely to get denied and just keep them out and just submit the ones that you feel confident will get approved. You'd rather be on TikTok Shop with those products and then wait till they, kind of open up the restrictions later to add the next set of products.
Yeah, that makes sense. What categories are invite only? Do you know off the top of your head?
Well, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think like anything that goes like into your mouth, like there's a lot of restrictions in those categories. Like, anything that is at all close to being medical related, like pain medicines are currently restricted. Anything, even like ointments, that, do any type of pain relief. They're moving forward with those categories, right? That's why they're invite only, in that they're trying to build them out and just test it out. So it won't be before long. I think that those become a little bit more, I would say, open. But there's a lot less, I would say, kind of freedom to list products on TikTok Shop right now than in comparison to Amazon, right? Because they're just trying to make sure they don't make any mistakes that's going to give them some bad publicity on TikTok, right?
Yep. Yep. They don't need that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen even with beauty products too, it can very easily seem like just a straightforward beauty product, but I notice if there's any claims in that product, like let's say it helps treat eczema or support that, like all of a sudden I've noticed it pulls they have issues on TikTok Shop and it gets pulled into almost a different category. So is that something you've seen too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like categorization is like
Is
really important.
yeah.
You have to be careful about how you categorize your products initially.
Hmm.
Um, because if you miscategorize it, it's hard to change it later, right?
Yeah.
And again, I just want to say this. All the people we work with at TikTok are awesome. Like they're really great to work with. They're just doing the best they
They
can
just don't
in
have
a
enough resources.
situation where
Yeah.
they're overwhelmed, right? But they really want to help. They just
Mhm.
don't have all the bandwidth to help everyone right now.
Yeah, there's just not enough of them. So, awesome. So with that, let's open up to some questions. I know, Sam, if you have some that you want to grab from up above and paste them, I can kind of go through them because I think I saw some submitted while we were kind of waiting here. So the first one here: does TikTok Shop work with Bazaar Voice or Power Reviews or Yotpo? Are you familiar with those?
Yeah. So not yet. So the
So say
Yahoo reviews, right?
I.
Though I don't think that's going to be far off,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I haven't seen them integrate with any of those yet
Yeah.
either. Also, TikTok Shop or TikTok, I should say, in general, is known for their API is just not as good as like for Meta, for example. They're still very, very behind. So like development partners just don't have as much access to a lot of different things. So I think those will be coming in the future. But yeah, so let's see. What other questions do we have? What constitutes enough changing in a creator's video to make a different video where you don't get flagged for duplicate content? We've paid cash to creators to make a video and we want to use some of that content on our own page for ads. Here's what happened and our store page. I don't want to get flagged for duplicate content. So I just did quite a deep dive with this, and I will say TikTok, this is new. This is new as of about 6 months ago, with where they really cracked down on more duplicate content. So like Kendall has said, and I've said, they move the target a lot, so things can change. The latest that I've seen when it comes to using creator content is that if you look up even in their rules on TikTok, if you do have the rights, you can repost it to your feed, but it will honor the original poster more. So you will get less organic engagement if you repost it. Now, where you really get banned is if you tag a TikTok Shop on it, because you're like taking away that commission potential. That's where we've seen the difference, because we have had brands do both. And so I've seen like the bans happen when it comes to actually using it for TikTok Shop. If the original creator did not tag TikTok Shop and you don't tag TikTok Shop, then it tends to not be an issue. I'm curious, Kendall, if you've seen otherwise. But that's typically what we've seen. Now, in terms of editing it, I've seen brands splice together different videos. It is, I think, some sort of algorithm that's looking at it to see how different you make it. So I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I also see really great results with reaction videos. Typically, TikTok is fine with reaction videos, which is like
Yeah.
where you react to that creator's piece of content and add a little bit extra to it, or splice even a few different together. That's what I've seen on our side.
Yeah. I mean, there's no like perfect formula. Like if you change X%, you're okay. I mean, honestly, like if they create a video for you and they don't post it on TikTok, right? That's fine. Okay. Right. It's only a problem if they post on TikTok and then you post the exact same video on TikTok, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you run a risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say if you feel like you want to post it, then just make some changes to it, right? You can, edit it, you can add some overlay text, you can, kind of,
You can. They also have a repost feature on TikTok now, so you can actually repost it to your fans too. And that's also a new-ish feature. So you can still repost it to your fans, and it still keeps all of it honoring the original post, which
right.
is great. And then the other thing is sparking. If you want to run it in ads, you can spark it, which means getting that creator's right to run it through Spark ads, which is great also for TikTok Shop.
Yeah, that's a really great point. It's a really valuable way to get more traction on TikTok Shop is if you have an affiliate that does a really good job for you and they create a good video and it's getting sales, then they give you a code, right? And by using that code, you can import that TikTok into your ad platform and then run it as an ad, right? And they're still going to get paid commission, but you're going to give it a lot more exposure by running it as an ad. And so that's called a Spark ad. And that's a great feature within TikTok. And we use it all the time, for our clients.
Yeah. Yeah, we that was one feature we also added earlier this year, was where it's like one click getting that code, because of whoever asked that question, because of the issue of not wanting to repost it. You can actually just run it through their handle. Also, there's a bunch of data that shows Spark ads perform 30 to 40% better than even like studio produced type of content when it comes to engagement, which just makes sense. It feels less like an ad. So it's like, why not have that part of your strategy? I feel like Spark ads should definitely be part of your strategy if you're using affiliates, or if you're just using creators in general.
Yeah. Well, that's why, basically affiliates are successful for you, is that it's much more organic and authentic, right?
Mhm.
And that's why Spark Ad works, is that you're taking an organic, authentic TikTok and you're just now targeting it to the right people you want to see it.
Yep. Yeah, makes total sense. So, one other question here. So, this person says, trying to understand the cost of doing business. Um, Thank you for explaining affiliates, but what margin does TikTok take?
Yeah. So TikTok's transaction fee is 6% right now. They I think are going to increase that to 8%, at the end of the year, is my guess. Just setting expectations, right? um, but still it's a lot less than an Amazon or other marketplaces.
Yeah, I think they're trying to get a handle. I mean, it's always a little dangerous with this, because like they can get you in at a good percentage and then jack it up, and then all of a sudden the margins don't make sense. So I feel like a lot of business owners and businesses are just a little skeptical or on edge about that, which does make sense. But I have heard similar, but you obviously have much more direct line in there. So you said 6%, and probably you're thinking 8% by the end of the year.
There were talks about moving to
10.
8%, and they delayed that.
Mhm.
And so, it is 6% right now.
Right now.
Because they were talking about it initially. I
Yep.
think eventually we'll move it to 8%.
Yeah. Uh, and then we'll wrap up with this last question here, as we're coming up on time. So, how can Amazon sellers benefit from TikTok's integration with Amazon? Which I know, Kendall, this is something you and I had just talked about last week, where for everyone else, TikTok announced about a month ago that they are going to be integrating with Amazon, but not much more has really come out since then. So,
Yeah.
yeah. What do you know about this?
They announced it actually a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And, there is a closed beta, with some companies that, are basically advertising on TikTok, selling on Amazon. And, the whole promise of this is that the attribution, basically that transaction that happens on Amazon, will get passed back to TikTok. So you'll know the ad performance of the ads you're running to drive sales on Amazon. Right now, when you run an ad, trying to promote your product on Amazon, you kind of lose visibility once a person clicks over to Amazon. You don't know, which ads are really driving the results for you if you have multiple ads, right? And so the promise of this is that, you will get that kind of that visibility back, right? Of which ads you're running on TikTok are driving results for you on Amazon.
Yeah. 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 Hopefully that answers your question. But I think we're all interested to see, but it seems like it comes down to that tracking, really allowing you to see it. If you go on TikTok right now and click out on an Amazon link, it says, "Are you sure you want to leave TikTok?" Right? Like it even like stops you and everything.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll change that as well?
I'm not sure. I mean, but I'll tell you, I mean, the benefit of basically taking that same ad and pointing it to your products on TikTok Shop is that when the customer buys on TikTok Shop, you get all that customer information, right? Because the order is going through your e-commerce system. You have their, their name, their email, all the information you want to remarket to them. You never get that from Amazon, right?
Yeah.
And you never will. Even this partnership isn't going to give you that, right?
Yeah.
So that's a real benefit of TikTok Shop over Amazon.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Being able to like actually own your relationships with your customers is important. I know Amazon's gotten flack for that too. But yeah, so I hope everyone enjoyed this great conversation. This will be recorded and sent to you. And I also just want to pop back up here. If you are interested in downloading that State of Micro Influencer Marketing report, you can scan that QR code, and it's a free report where we analyzed over 30,000, I think, or 35,000 pieces of creator content across TikTok and Instagram, and just pulled some benchmarking data since that was a top question that a lot of you had been asking for. So feel free to check that out. And you click that button to download the report as well. Thanks, Sam, for popping that up. But Kendall, thank you so much for joining us. This was super fun. I feel like I've learned so much in talking to you, even in our briefings before this, and obviously during this webinar. And with the way that TikTok is changing things, maybe we'll have to do it again in a couple months to keep
Yeah, well,
things
thank you. Well, I was really honored to be a part of it. I really enjoyed it.
awesome. Well, have a great day, everybody.